Hey y'all, welcome to the Honesty Circle, the safe space to discuss growing in adulthood, mental health, faith, and all the things in between. It's your host, Sierra Elise, and I hope you're taking care of not only your mental and spiritual, but your emotional and physical health so you can be your best self this week. Today in the Honesty Circle, we will be talking about grieving our old self. We all had a plan on who we thought we would be and what we thought we would be doing when we became an adult. I definitely wanted to first be a model after watching years and seasons upon seasons of America's Next Top Model. Then I realized, okay, I want to be a fashion designer. So I was in my books making sketches, figuring out, got a sewing machine. Then I was like, okay, I want to be an Olympic gymnast. I'm like, okay, girl, you're not going to the Olympics. Then I decided I wanted to be an athletic trainer. And you might not be doing what you thought you would be. I definitely am not. I can confidently say that I am not an athletic trainer, and that's okay. But this also doesn't have to do with just a career. If you asked any Sierra when she was in any time in college from probably freshman and sophomore year, I would say more freshman year, I was definitely that person who was like, I'm gonna be married by 24, engaged by 25, and then I'm gonna have 2 kids, and then I'm gonna be done having kids by 30, and that means I need to meet the person tomorrow and all the things. So it's not just about the career, it's also just like kind of who you thought the plan that you had. But then also, lastly, it's also the image that you had of yourself, or the image that people put on you, or the labels that people have put on you. Those also are a part of your old self. Those are also parts that need to be grieved as well. For example, you might have had family members who tell you, you're the loud child. Sierra, you're so loud. Oh, you're so... I wouldn't say my family told me this, but definitely had teachers who told me that I was just so disorganized. I was getting my work done, but it definitely wasn't the most organized in that time. And so your old self looks so different. And depending on kind of who you are now, who you were then, your old self might be self-image, labels, career, plans, or a combination of all of them. But it's okay because you have an identity of who you are, and that's who you are this moment. And so we're going to work on how we can let go of those images of who we thought we were be and fully step into who we are in this present. Not worry about the future. We're not worrying about what's coming next. We're not worried about who we're going to be when we're 30 or 40 or 50. We're not worried about that. What we're going to worry about right now is letting go of our old. So now that we are entering adulthood, or if you're already an adult, that you can stay present and fully tap into who you are supposed to be in this time and in this season of your life. So a big part of grieving is knowing that whatever image or thought you had in your mind, that it's okay to let that go. We all know that there are different stages of grief. We know that it's like anger and denial and bargaining and depression and acceptance. And depending on kind of what research you're doing, it could go from 5 to 7. And while all those are great, I think when it comes to yourself, it's such a different experience. And yes, you still have those stages, but it's not, I don't think it's a conventional someone passed away, right? This is not a situation where someone has passed away. You're still you, right? I'm still Sierra. Just because I'm not the Sierra that I was or thought I would be, I'm still Sierra. And so I didn't go anywhere. And so I think that's the hard part about grieving your old self. It's because how am I sad of who I thought I wouldn't be when I'm still somebody, right? How am I, angry or depressed about where I am in life right now when I'm at least still here? And not saying that those are not, you're not able to feel those things. And I think that those are still feelings about it, but that's why it's so hard to grapple with. That's why, say if you're depressed, having a depression about kind of who you are or where you are in life, that's why it's so hard to kind of get yourself out of that, because it's like, nothing is lost. No, you're not gone. You're still here. But how do I let go of that image, of that person, of that title, of that label, of who I was? And it's so hard. But I think that in order for us to fully lean into what God has called us and where we're supposed to be in this season, that we have to let go of our past. And that means the past image and goals and things that you had for yourself that maybe you've not accomplished yet. It doesn't mean you need to let go of those goals either. Maybe it just means it's reshaping them, or maybe it is a full let go of those. I'm going to share a little bit about me, because this is something that I have really, really worked through, and I'm still working through it, but yeah, so if anyone knows me, you know that when I was in ninth grade, I knew I wanted to go to UNC. I also knew that I wanted to be an athletic trainer all 4 years of high school. I was in sports medicine. I was doing shadow hours. I was on the field. I remember when I became a cheerleader, I had to get a certain amount of hours. And so I was literally football. Friday nights were like me cheering on the sidelines, but then Thursday nights for the JV games, I would have to sometimes go to those games, or depending on the season, in the spring, we had to get some hours too. So I'd be at baseball games, or I think I was at a soccer game too. I really can't remember, but I just was so invested that this is what I was going to do. Every school I was looking at had to have exercise science or kinesiology as a major. And I knew that I needed to get a master's in athletic training. So I knew that I have to get my master's, period. That was the plan. That's exactly what I decided. And that's what I wanted to do. It wasn't until maybe around my junior-ish year when that kind of started to change. And it was so crazy because I remember like kind of questioning myself. I was like, oh my gosh, like, why am I feeling that this is not for me? I didn't know if it was like because I wasn't performing the best in classes. And I wouldn't say that I didn't, obviously I got my degree, like I didn't fail or I didn't do anything awful, but it was like, maybe I'm not understanding, maybe it's not my career path. And so I still encourage myself, I'm going to continue to see it through, and maybe I'll just take a break. And so after I graduated, I did a program where I served as a college advisor in high school, and that experience, I will say, completely changed my life, because that reminded me that showed me that my love for athletic training. Wait, run it back. Before I get to there, that experience changed my life. But before I got there, I shadowed at a high school when I was in, I forgot what year it was. I think that was my junior year, when I was questioning all of things. I was questioning it because I was doing these shadow hours and I loved it. I loved going to the high school I was working in. It was in Durham. I was going to the high school a few times a week. I would be coming on Fridays. I loved the person who I was under. She was so great. She poured into me and all the things. So that experience changed me, but it also had me question what it was I wanted to do, because I was like, oh, I love this high school level because I'm able to connect with younger students. But then also, I think a big part of that experience was, it wasn't just what I was doing for the athletes and how I was working in the training room to like help with like rehab stuff or, anything like that. But it really came from like the one-off conversation that I had. And I remember some people, they were asking me about their homework. They were asking me about like, my girlfriend, this, I'm figuring out how to ask her to prom. And so small things like that, when I think that's what was the most pivotal for me, and realizing that that's not exactly what I wanted to do, because I wasn't like, it wasn't the work that I was doing that I loved. It was the connecting with the students that I loved. And then once I figured that out, I was like, okay, well, it's my senior year. And now I'm like, whew, what if I get athletic training? That's not what I want to do. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take a little gap year at least, and figure out what it is I really want to do. And so that's when it fast forward to the experience I had working as a college advisor at a high school. Completely changed my life because, I think it was twofold, because not only am I coaching these students on figuring out what they want to do, I'm also in a space where I have like no idea what I want to do. But I knew that's what I like. What I like to do was connecting with students and helping them out and being like that go-to person for them. And so that's where I go to my current job, and where I'm working in higher education. And this is awesome as well. And now I'm realizing that like, maybe this is my purpose. Right? Maybe this is my purpose. Maybe this is where I should be, working in higher education, kind of working with students. And so it took me a while, I would say, the full 2 years since I've graduated, that I realized that, one, that it was okay to let go of the Sierra that I thought was going to be an athletic trainer for, a college football team. Not that wasn't a great image, and not that, I fought myself for continuing, but I don't fault myself now, but there definitely was a time in which I did fault myself. I was very angry with myself because I'm like, oh God, Sierra, like, why couldn't you just, go get your master's, like go do it. Stop playing. Like you just go do it. That's what you said you wanted to do, so go do it. But something in me just kept telling myself not to do it. And then I was in denial of like, so that was like the anger side, but then also the denial side was like, oh, like maybe maybe I don't like what I'm doing right now. Maybe I don't like working with students. Maybe I need to go back to athletic training. Maybe that's exactly where my heart lies. That's my passion. That's what I should be doing. That's it. So I don't think I've gotten to every stage of grief of this, which you know how grief works. It's not like you hit every stage. Everyone's grief looks different. We know all that. But I think I finally got to the point of acceptance, of understanding that this is where I am right now in this moment. This is where I should be. And that's serving in higher education and serving students to the best of my ability, connecting with students. But that doesn't mean that maybe next year that I will be going to athletic training school. Like maybe I will never go back to there. And that's okay. I've accepted that if that is no longer what I want for myself, which I don't think it is anymore, honestly, if I let go of that, I fully have tapped in. And I think honestly that's made me better at my job now, because I fully have leaned into this is where I am in this moment, and this is my purpose right now. This is where I should be. And so I know that's a career example, but another example I want to do too is kind of more about a label. So like I said, I had teachers who told me that I was disorganized, kind of growing up. You know when they used to give you those planners? Girl, I was not, I say girl like I'm on the phone. I was not using that planner. That thing, my parents would buy it, right? For the year. I would probably get maybe 2 to 3 assignments in it. It wasn't until, I forgot what grade it was. I can't think of what grade it was, but it was one grade in which our teacher like made us use it, and like we had to write in it and then get it signed at the end of the week by our parents. So that made me utilize it, but after that year, I can't say that I was continuing to use that planner, and like I was just not the most organized, and stuff just went in floaters and just went in my book bag, and you know, all the things. And it wasn't until college that I really started to get organized, and that's because when I served as a manager, time management was so important because of how much time being a manager took of my day and stuff. So it was very important that I was like planning ahead, like if I had an assignment or a test during like a game week or a game day, making sure I planned ahead of like talking to the professor or things like that. So I had to like kind of lay everything out there early on and figuring out, okay, what's the plan gonna look like for this semester? With practice and games and stuff. So I went from that, and then obviously after I graduated, I was using a planner very heavy, very, very heavy, and I started to use it even more. Now, y'all, I'm over here with 2 different types of planners, and I'm very invested in the planning. And it wasn't until, I would say, last year, I had a student say that I was organized, and I was like, girl, if you knew, I'm not that organized. I literally told her, I was like, I'm not that organized. And it wasn't until, I would say maybe end of last year, like end of 2022, where someone said that I was the most organized person that they know. And that rocked my world. Like truly. Because it wasn't until that moment that I actually saw myself as organized, because I've labeled myself as disorganized for so long, that it wasn't until then that I was like, wait, girl, you actually are organized. You actually, you utilize your planner and you plan things in advance, and like you make sure that you put things in your calendar so you're not double booked, and making sure that you can find a time to do all the things that you want to do. Shout out to that last episode about balancing life. But yeah, so it wasn't until then that I was like, wow, I am organized. And that required me to let go of the label that I had of myself, saying that I was unorganized, and that was a label that someone put on me. I didn't have that label. If no one told me that I was unorganized, I wouldn't have fully believed that I was disorganized at that time in my life. So yeah, and so like I said, those are 2 examples like in my life where I've had to let go of a plan or an image or a label that I had of my old self. And I think that's why I've been able to fully lean into where God is calling me now in this moment and in this season of my life, because the images of myself, baby, we are not holding on to that. I am not the Sierra I was in college. I'm not the Sierra that I was as a kid. And I think that's another thing too, when you like even today when I went back to church, people were like, oh, Sierra, you look like such an adult. Like, you're an adult now. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm not the kid anymore that, y'all used to see right around the church. I am an adult. And so, I think with accepting our current selves as well. So when we grieve our old self, accepting where we are now, it allows us to accept different from other people too. And so, like a kid, sometimes, depending on how you're raised, you're supposed to respect adults, and you're supposed to, say Mr. or Mrs. and say different things like that. But now that I am an adult, there's different people that I meet where I'm like, I don't have to say like Mrs. So-and-so or blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't have to say that, right? Like, I'm an adult and I can fully lean into the fact that I can say like whoever the person's first name is. And that's just like a slight example, but like being able to fully lean into where you are now is just really important. And so I really thought about this as well when I was in church, that the devil wants us to hold on to the old image of ourselves because that's how he's going to stop our potential. Like, God is calling us to go forward, be present in this moment in our lives, in this season. And if we continue to hold on to those old images, we're not capitalizing on that potential. And it's giving the enemy grounds to continue to hold you there. Because also think about this, like if you hold on to that old image, there's like lies and deceit that come with that you're telling yourself. And so we can no longer tell ourselves those lies, those negative thoughts, because that's not who we are anymore. That's not who we are anymore. Like I think about this too. Like if I were to go back to homecoming, it's like homecoming season. We know that, right? And so when you go back to homecoming, some people will see you as your old self, and they don't know that now in this new season that you are somebody else, and that maybe you were a little more soft-spoken, and now they can't walk over you, or small things like that. Like, we have to fully lean into our potential of who we are right now, and no matter what space we are in, we have to not hold on to those old images. And so, like I said, thinking about the devil and how he wants to hold us back, I was in church and something like rang in my spirit, and I was thinking about how, first of all, we know that God is all-knowing, right? God knows everything. He has a plan for us. We all know that, right? But the devil is not all-knowing. The devil doesn't have the authority and the knowledge that God has. And so he doesn't fully know what God has planned for us. Like he just knows, he anticipates that God will be doing something for us because he knows that's how it works, right? It's not his first rodeo. Like he knows that if he stops potential, then he's stopping what God has fully planned, and he knows that God's plan is perfect, and so he doesn't want that to happen, right? So if he, like, think about this, like the devil has to believe in your potential to want to actually stop you. I'm gonna say that again. The devil's not all-knowing, so he has to believe that you have potential for him to want to hold you back. And if the devil can believe in your potential, why can't you? Let me know. Think about it. Why can you not believe in what your potential is and what God has planned for you like the devil does? He wouldn't be working so hard if he thought that you didn't have potential, right? He's not working that hard. He wouldn't fight tooth and nail to hold you back if he didn't believe in your potential. So every time that came in my spirit, and that's something I'm going to continue to repeat to myself, because I think that's so important. Like, we have to believe in ourselves and know that God is calling us to higher and bigger, and he's calling us to walk in a different season, and that requires us to let go of that old self. That also allows us to lean into more on where we are in this moment. And like I said, that looks so differently from different people, and I think that takes some time for you to reflect that on your own, to really think about, okay, what is God calling me to in this season, and what am I supposed to let go of? What image of myself am I supposed to no longer think about? And it's a hard process. Like I said, this is grief. This is not like, it's not just about letting go. The goal is to get to acceptance where you can accept and, like, you know, kind of let go. But it's also about working through those stages. Like, there's going to be anger. There's going to be bargaining. There's going to be depression. There's going to be shock. There's going to be denial. There's going to be all those feelings. And so allow yourself to feel those things. We are adults. You're going to, like, another perfect example, y'all. One thing about being an adult is them jeans don't fit the way they used to. All right. And so First is denial of like, okay, maybe they just shrunk in the dryer. Then it's the anger of like, dang, the fans don't fit. Then you might get sad about that, right? Because that is a sad thing, like when your maybe favorite pair of jeans don't fit you no more. That's kind of sad, right? And then we're gonna accept, right? We're going to accept that right now that we're gonna love this body that we're in right now. I am preaching to myself, child. Woo! We're gonna love this body that we are in right now, and the body that we had at 10 and 16, baby, that you have hips now. Or for a guy, you maybe got a little gut now. Like, and that's okay. We are accepting ourselves in this present moment and letting go to that image that we had of ourselves. And that means physical, that means emotional, that means mental, that means plans, that means careers, that means labels, that means everything that is no longer who you are. We are not going to put that on ourselves. We're not. So yeah. All right. So that's it for this week's episode. I really hope you guys took something from this episode and let you know that you are going to be great in whatever version of your old self that we are letting go of. I pray that y'all are fully leaning into who you are and who you're called to be right now in this season. All right, C's 2 cents for this week is we are going to figure out what labels that we're telling ourselves now that no longer serve us. What labels, what plans, what images do we have of ourselves that are no longer accurate? I want you to write them down in your journal if you have one, or a piece of paper, or type them in your phone, whatever it takes. But write up those things. I'm going to try to practice that exercise as well for myself. Write down those things, figure out what it is that you no longer are, that you keep telling yourself that you are. And hopefully you can write it down on paper so you can ball it up and throw it out. But I mean, that's just my 2 cents. You can take it or leave it or not. Thanks guys so much for joining the Honesty Circle this week. If you like anything that you heard, please be sure to share with a friend, subscribe, follow us on Instagram at the Honesty Circle with an underscore at the end. Keep tagging us when you're listening to this episode this week. Thanks again for listening, and go conquer your week.